Hello, dear future doctors. I am Jay Thakkar and I am currently a third year MBBS student at Sri MP Shah Government Medical College, Jamnagar, Gujarat. And I am working as a biology content creator here at MEMONEET. So, do you guys know that why we at MEMONEET are working so hard to create these full test and OMR scanning feature and these all many features for you guys? Because we understand your desire to secure great marks in NEET and to secure the government seat which you are aiming. And at this point of time, what you guys should do is solve as many as full tests possible, because we try to stimulate the natural environment of the test by giving full test. So it is better to give as many full tests as possible at this time. And today we are going to discuss the zoology solutions of the full test 4. So let us begin. So let us begin with the first question of zoology, that is the question number 151. It is an assertion reason question. So this question states, the assertion states that the members of Platyhelminthes are commonly called as flatworms. So yes, this is a correct statement because we know that the Platyhelminthes are the flatworms, and the reason is given that the Platyhelminthes have dorsoventrally flattened body. So this is a correct reason because the body of Platyhelminthes is dorsoventrally flattened. Okay, so therefore they are called as flatworms. So the answer to this question is the both assertion and reason are true, and the reason is the correct explanation of assertion. Moving on to the next question. The worm-like proboscis, collar and trunk with complete digestive system is which of the following? Now see, the question is saying worm-like and the parts of body are given, that is the proboscis, collar and trunk. And the options are saccoglossus, hemichordata, balanoglossus and all of the above. Now, as we know that the worm-like features and these parts, the proboscis, collar and trunk, are a characteristic of which the division, that is the hemichordata. Yeah, and the example of hemichordata are saccoglossus and balanoglossus. Okay, so the answer to this question is all of the above. Moving on to the next question. How many animals among the following have jointed appendages? Now you must have got by this the jointed appendages. Which characteristic organism does have jointed appendages? These are the arthropods. Okay, so the which of the following from these are the arthropods? The bombyx, then apis and limulus. These are the arthropods from these options. Okay, so the correct answer to this question is answer 1, that is 3. Moving on to the next question. The notochord is derived from ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm, and both ectoderm and endoderm. Now see, we know that notochord is a dorsal structure. Okay, notochord develops on the dorsal side, right? And this is the structure derived from the mesoderm. Okay, so the correct answer is the notochord is derived from the mesoderm. Moving on to the next question. These are the two statements and you have to state if which of them is correct. Okay, the statement 1 is the nuclei in the cells of columnar epithelium are located at the base. The statement 2 is ciliated epithelium is modified columnar or cuboidal cells and they bear cilia on their free surface. Now see, we first start with statement 1. It states that they are talking about columnar epithelium and they are asking the position of nuclei. Now we have seen that the columnar epithelial cells, okay, these are the columnar epithelial cells and the nuclei in them are located at the base. Yes, so this is a correct statement. So statement 1 is correct. The second statement is the ciliated epithelium is a modified columnar or cuboidal cells which bear cilia on their free surface. Now see, this is the free surface and this is the basolateral end. Now the free surface containing cilia, and what are cilia? These are the small hair-like structures. Okay, so this free surface containing the cilia is called as the ciliated epithelium. Yes, so this statement is also correct. So the answer to this is that both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct. Moving on to the next question. Which connective tissue is characterized by solid and pliable intracellular material? Okay, now see, the solid and pliable intracellular material. What is the meaning of pliable? Means it can bend itself, right? Now these properties are seen in which connective tissue? These are seen in the cartilage. Yes, so cartilage, the intracellular material of cartilage is solid and pliable, and it is also important to note that it resists compression. Okay, next, moving on to the next question. The adjacent cell communicate with each other by which junction? So this is a question about the cellular junctions. Now this is talking about two adjacent cells, right? So these are the two adjacent cells, okay, let us assume, and there is a gap present between them, right? Some amount of gap would be present, and they are talking about communication between two adjacent cells. And we know that these communications occur by like this, the tube like protein, that is the connexons. And in which type of in which type of junction are connexons found? They are found in the gap junction, right? So the answer to this question is gap junction. Moving on to the next question, the question number 158. Okay, so here are the two statements and you have to tell which is correct and which is incorrect. Frog never drink water but they absorb it through the skin. Okay, the second statement is, in frog skin, the skin acts as aquatic respiratory organ. So the answer to this question is both statement 1 and 2 are correct. And why is it so? Because the frogs have a unique property that they can absorb the water through their skin, and the skin also acts as an aquatic respiratory organ. So when the frog is present in water, the skin does the exchange of gases. Moving on to the next question, the question number 159, it is match the column. Okay, so here there are the lung capacity is given. Okay, various lung capacities are given and you have to identify which one is which. Okay, the first one is TV plus ERV, that is tidal volume plus expiratory reserve volume. Which is this capacity? So tidal volume plus expiratory reserve volume is the expiratory capacity. Okay, so A goes with 1. Next is residual volume plus expiratory reserve volume plus tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume. So this collects the whole volume of the lung. So which is this capacity? It is the total lung capacity, right? The next is expiratory reserve volume plus residual volume, expiratory reserve volume plus residual volume, and this is called as the functional residual capacity. So the answer to this question will be answer 1. Moving on to the next question, question number 160. The additional volume of air. Note here the additional volume of air. Okay, it is talking about the additional volume a person can inspire. Okay, inspire by a forcible inspiration is called. Means a person has done normal inspiration. What will be that volume? That will be tidal volume. And after the normal inspiration, the person inspires forcefully. So the extra volume of air which goes inside, that is the additional volume, is known as what? It is known as the inspiratory reserve volume. So the answer to this question is option 3, the inspiratory reserve volume. And the value of this inspiratory reserve volume, as you can see here, is about 2500 ml to 3000 ml. Moving on to the next question, question 161. Which is a correct statement? We have to identify the correct statement, right? So the first statement is a spirometer has clinical significance. So as we know that spirometry is done to identify different lung volumes and lung capacities, and this helps us to identify different lung diseases. So it does have clinical significance. So this is a correct statement. Next is a healthy man can inspire or expire approx 6000 to 8000 ml of air per second. So this is a wrong statement. The next statement is the expiratory reserve volume is about 1000 ml. So we know that the value of expiratory reserve volume is 1000 to 1100 ml, which is correct. And normally expiration is a passive process. So this is also a correct statement. Because see, the expiration occurs when the diaphragm returns to its normal position, that is the dome shaped position, right? And this process is a passive process. So the correct statements from these are A, C and D. Moving on to the next question. Match the types of WBCs with their percentage. Now, when we do a complete blood count, that is the CBC, we get different types of the blood cells. So these are the different types of WBCs which are found during the differential leukocyte count. So first is the basophils. Now let me tell you that basophils are very rarely found in the normal blood film. So its value is very less, that is 0.5 to 0.1. Next are the neutrophils. You would be knowing that neutrophils are the most abundant cells which are found in the blood picture. Okay, so these are the neutrophils, and neutrophils are approx 60 to 65%. These are maximum. Next are the eosinophils. Now you might be knowing that eosinophils are increased during the allergic response or parasitic infection, and the normal count is very less, that is 2 to 3%. Next are the monocytes. The monocytes are 6 to 8% in blood. Next are the lymphocytes. The percentage of lymphocytes in the blood is 20 to 25%. So which will be the correct option in this? The correct option is 2. Alright. Moving on to the next question. It is telling the blood pressure in mammalian aorta is maximum during which of the following processes. Okay. Now see, we are knowing that aorta is the blood vessel arising from the left ventricle, right? And when would be the blood pressure maximum in the aorta? When the ventricle contracts strongly, right? So when does the left ventricle contract strongly? The contraction of left ventricle is called as systole, right? So the blood pressure in the mammalian aorta will be maximum during the systole of left ventricle. Moving on to the next question. It is the question 164. It states that a minute vessel runs parallel to the Henle's loop in the juxtamedullary nephron. And which is the minute vessel? Okay. So we know that in the juxtamedullary nephron, first of all, juxtamedullary nephron is an important term. In the juxtamedullary nephron, the loop of Henle extends deeper, okay, deeper into the medulla. Also, so this is the loop of Henle, right, of juxtamedullary nephron. Also, a vessel runs parallel to the loop of Henle. So how does this vessel arise? First of all, you have seen the glomerulus. Before that, there is the afferent arteriole, and after the glomerulus there is the efferent arteriole. The efferent arteriole forms a parallel network around the loop of Henle. So it runs parallelly around this, the efferent arteriole, and this is called as the vasa recta. Okay, it forms a U-shaped vessel like this. Okay, so the efferent arteriole, okay, which emerges from the glomerulus, forms a fine capillary network. Okay, and this minute vessel around the loop of Henle, which forms a U-shaped vasa recta. Okay, so this is the vasa recta. The answer of this question is vasa recta. Moving on to the next question. Arrange the parts of nephron in a correct sequence. Now see, you have seen a nephron. Okay, first of all, there is formation of a glomerulus, then there is a Bowman's capsule, right? So this is the Bowman's capsule. Then there is formation of PCT, or the proximal convoluted tubule. See, proximal comes first and distal comes later, right? Then there is formation of loop of Henle, okay, and then there is distal convoluted tubule, and then it forms the collecting duct. So this is a structure of nephron. So which comes first? The first is glomerulus, right? Second is Bowman's capsule. First is glomerulus, second is Bowman's capsule, third is the PCT, fourth is Henle's loop, and fifth is DCT. So the answer to this will be second. I hope you are clear with the structure of nephron. Moving on to the next question. This is also an assertion reason question. It states that the 8th, 9th and 10th pair of ribs are called as vertebrochondral ribs. The reason is given that Dorsally, the first 7 pairs are attached to the thoracic vertebrae, and ventrally, they are connected to the sternum with the help of hyaline cartilage. Okay, so here the reason is correct, but what does this reason state? It is given about the first 7 pairs of ribs. We know that the first 7 pairs of ribs are behind attached to the thoracic vertebra and ventrally connected to the sternum via hyaline cartilage. That is the correct statement. But the assertion here is talking about the 8th, ninth, and 10th ribs. And the 8th, ninth, and 10th ribs are connected to the 7th rib. Okay, it is connected to the 7th rib. So these are called as false ribs. So this is a correct reason, but it is not a correct explanation to the assertion. So the answer to this question is first, right? Both assertion and reason are true, but the reason is not correct explanation of assertion. Moving on to the next question. Read the following statement and choose the correct option. Okay, so we need to choose which of these statements are correct and which is incorrect. First statement states that each half of the pectoral girdle consists of a clavicle and scapula. So pectoral girdle is the upper part of body, right? And we know that one half of this pectoral girdle will have one scapula over here and a clavicle which connects the sternum to the scapula. Okay, so this is a correct statement. The next statement is the vertebral column protects the spinal cord, and it also supports the head and serves as a point of attachment to the ribs. Okay, so we know that the vertebral column which is present in humans, its role is to protect the spinal cord in between the vertebral canal, and it also supports our head, and it also serves as a point of attachment to the ribs, right? So this is also a correct statement. The next statement is the glenoid cavity is a depression to which the head of humerus articulates. Now see, in the scapula there is this cavity. Okay, it is called as the glenoid cavity. This is a scapula, triangular bone, and this is a cavity. In this cavity, the glenoid cavity, the head of humerus articulates in this way. Okay, so this is the head of humerus. So this is the humerus and this is the upper arm, and the head of humerus articulates in the glenoid cavity. So this is also a correct statement. The next statement is parietal bone and the temporal bone of skull are joined by a fibrous joint. So I need to tell you that the parietal bone is this one and the temporal bone is this one. In between these two bones of skull there is a joint present called the suture, and this suture is a type of fibrous joint. So this statement is also correct. Okay, so I hope you are clear with all these statements. Moving on to the next question, the question 168. Which of the following statements about the pituitary gland is incorrect? Okay, so first statement is the anterior pituitary produces growth hormone, prolactin, and thyroid stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone. So this statement is correct, right? Because we know that the anterior pituitary produces these all hormones, which are the growth hormone, prolactin, TSH, and LH. The next statement is the pituitary gland is located in the sella turcica. Now what is sella turcica? Sella turcica is a bony cavity in which pituitary gland is situated. Pituitary gland is divided anatomically into pars distalis, pars intermedia, and pars nervosa. Okay, so imagine this is the pituitary gland in the sella turcica. We know that it is divided anatomically into anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary, or the adenohypophysis or neurohypophysis. The adenohypophysis is also divided further into pars distalis, pars intermedia, and the neurohypophysis or the posterior pituitary is called as pars nervosa. So this is also correct statement. Now see, pars nervosa secretes a hormone called MSH, that is the melanocyte stimulating hormone. So this is an incorrect statement. Why? Because pars nervosa secretes only two hormones, and it also does not secrete. The hypothalamus secretes these two hormones. Which are these two hormones? The oxytocin and vasopressin. So hypothalamus secretes the hormones and pars nervosa just stores them. Okay, so this is an incorrect statement. Moving on to the next question, that is question 169. It states that pineal gland secretes a hormone called as dash. Okay. Now see, the options here are such that if you identify this blank only, then you get the correct answer. So which hormone is secreted by the pineal gland? Absolutely correct. The melatonin is secreted by the pineal gland. And uh, in this option, the melatonin plays a very important role in the regulation of dash of our body. So melatonin is regulating what? It regulates the circadian rhythm, or the 24-hour rhythm, or the diurnal rhythm. So this is the function of melatonin. So pineal gland secretes melatonin, and melatonin regulates the circadian rhythm of our body. Moving on to the next question, it is match the following. Okay. Now see, these are some terms and these are its explanation. So what is gestation? As we know, the gestation period is the period of pregnancy, right? The average duration of pregnancy means the pregnancy and birth. And this average duration is how much? It is 9 months. Okay. So this is about gestation period. The next is ovulation. Ovulation is the release of egg from the Graafian follicle, right? So this is ovulation. Next is implantation. Now what is implantation? Implantation is the attachment of zygote to the endometrium. So this is the definition of implantation. Next is parturition. Now what is parturition? Parturition is the final process of delivery of the baby from uterus. So this is the match the following, and the answer to this question is answer 4. Moving on to the next question, it states that the labia majora are the fleshy folds of tissue which extend down from which part and surround the which part. Okay. Yeah. So labia majora, as we know, these are fleshy folds of tissue. These labia majora extend down the mons pubis, right? So the first blank is mons pubis. Okay. And they surround which opening? They surround the vaginal opening. So the description of labia majora is as following. Labia majora are the fleshy folds of tissue and they extend down the mons pubis and they surround the vaginal opening. Moving on to the next question, the hormones secreted by the placenta. Note it here, the placenta, and to maintain pregnancy are, so the placenta secretes some hormones to maintain pregnancy. Which are these hormones? So these hormones are the following. First is HCG, that is the human chorionic gonadotropin. Second is HPL, that is human placental lactogen, and it also secretes estrogen and progestogens. Okay. Moving on to the next question, the dash of immune system to certain antigens present in the environment is called allergy. Okay. So this question is talking about allergy. Okay. Now what is the definition of allergy? We know that allergy is a exaggerated response of our immune system, right? So the first blank will take this one. The exaggerated response of the immune system to certain antigens present in the environment is called allergy. So this was the definition of allergy. The second statement is the dash to which such an immune response is produced are called allergens. So the substances to which such response is produced are called as allergens. Are you clear with this? Moving on to the next question. The question number 174. So, which of the following immune response is responsible for rejection of kidney graft? Now see, the graft rejection is a really important part of immune system. This graft rejection occurs when we do an organ transplantation. The major system which is activated for the graft rejection is the cell mediated immunity. The cell mediated immune response is responsible for graft rejection. Now it is also important to know here that what can be done to prevent graft rejection. To prevent graft rejection, first of all, matching of the donor organ and the recipient is very important, and this matching is done by blood group matching, also the major histocompatibility complex matching. Next step is to give immunosuppressants throughout the life to the recipient. So the answer to this question is first, cell mediated immune response. Moving on to the next question, Question number 175. So this is also match the following. The recombinant DNA technology. Recombinant DNA technology is used where? Yes, it is used in genetic engineering. Okay. So A goes with 4. Next is plasmid. Now what is plasmid? The definition of plasmid states that plasmid is an extra chromosomal DNA. Extra chromosomal DNA means which is not present inside the cellular chromosome, and it is self-replicating, right? So next is restriction enzyme. So B goes with 1. Next is restriction enzyme. Restriction enzyme, the function of restriction enzyme is what? To cleave the DNA. So C goes with 3. And the cloning vehicles. What are the cloning vehicles? The cloning vehicles are the vectors. These vectors are used to transfer the desired DNA to the host organism. So the answer to this question is option 1. So moving on to the next question, it says strict quality control testing for each product is also required in. So this is a question from biotechnology, and you might be knowing the downstream processing, right? What do we do in the downstream processing is that we obtain the desired product, right? And that desired product, for that we require the strict quality control testing. Otherwise we cannot get the approval for market. So strict quality control testing for each and every product is required in the downstream processing. Moving on to the next question. Below are given two statements and you need to identify which one is true and which one is false. The first statement states that Bacillus thuringiensis forms protein crystals during a particular phase of their growth. So yes, that is a correct statement. The next statement is this capacity to generate a whole plant from any cell, a single cell, is called as totipotency. So you know about totipotency, right? That a single cell, if it is able to generate the whole organism, then it is called as totipotency. For example, in humans there is zygote. Zygote can generate a whole human, it can form the whole human, so that is a totipotent cell. Similarly, in plants also, the capacity to generate whole plant from any cell is called as totipotency. So this is also a correct statement. So the answer is both statement 1 and 2 are true. Option 3. Moving on to the next question. It states that the dash succeeded in tripling the food supply. Okay, so tripling the food supply is an important term, but yet it was not enough to dash the growing human population. So now you know what succeeded in tripling the food supply, what tripled the food supply? Yes, the green revolution. And so but the human population was growing at such a rate that it was not able to satisfy the needs of human population. That is, the it was not enough to feed the growing in a human population. So the answer to this question is option 4. Moving on to the next question. Question number 179. Which of the following statements about the central nervous system is incorrect? So you need to these are the four statements and you need to identify which one of them is incorrect. The first statement, it says that the command and control system of the body is the brain. So as we tell, the brain is the CPU of our body. Yes, the CPU, that is the central processing unit, as if it is in computer, the same it is for our body. So we know that the brain commands different function and it also controls the different systems. Okay, so it is the central information processing organ. Okay, so brain is the central information processing organ of our body, and so therefore it acts as the command and control system. Also, it processes various functions such as vision, hearing, speech, and memory. So so this statement is also correct, that the brain is the seat of human intelligence and memory. The next statement is, inside the skull the brain is covered by cranial meninges. Like the skull is a bony cage. Inside the skull the brain is there floating between the meninges. The meninges are there as a protective layer of the brain. So Now these meninges are not of four different parts. So see, this statement which is given, the cranial meninges is made up of four different parts, this statement is incorrect, because as we know, the meninges are of three types. See, the outermost meninges, that is the dura mater, after that comes the arachnoid mater, and then the innermost is the pia mater. Understood? So the correct answer is option 2. Moving on to the next statement, the next question, that is question number 180. So there are two types of axons. Now see here, the types of axons are asked, okay, not the different types of neurons or anything. Axon is a part of neuron, yeah. So type of axon are asked. So what are the two types of axon? The axon can be covered with myelin sheath, or it cannot be covered with myelin sheath. So the two types of axon will be myelinated and non-myelinated. So the answer is option 2. Moving on to the next question, question number 181. It states that the most abundant intracellular cation, okay, so first word is intracellular and the second word is cation. Cation means it is of positive charge, right? And intracellular means inside the cell, okay. So the outside cell environment is called as extracellular, okay, and intracellular environment is called as intracellular, okay, IC. So as we know, outside the cell in the extracellular fluid, the most abundant ion is sodium, right? But inside the cell in the intracellular fluid, the most abundant ion is potassium. Yes, so the answer of this is option 2. So potassium ions predominate in the intracellular fluid and sodium ions predominate in the extracellular fluid, right? Now let us move on to the next question. Homology indicates common ancestry, correct? So the other examples of homology are, so what will be the example of homology in this? It will be vertebrate hearts and brains, okay. So the answer is vertebrate hearts and brains. The next question is, what factor primarily determines the rate of appearance of new forms in organisms according to the evolutionary theory? So this is a question from evolution, and it is asking that what determines the rate of appearance of new forms in the organisms. Now new forms will be generated only when the life cycle or the lifespan of the organism will be complex, right? So the answer is, the factor determining the rate of appearance of new forms in the organisms is the life cycle or the lifespan of the organism, right? Moving on to the next question, it is the match the following question. So there are different types of contraceptives given on the left side, and in the column 2 there are the examples of the types of contraceptives. So you are going to tell me what is the example of the following types. Tell me, what is the example of chemical contraceptives? Yes, it is spermicidal jelly and foam. So option A goes with S. Now, what are the examples of IUDs or intrauterine devices? The intrauterine devices, as you know, that is copper T, and loop, that is the Lippes loop. Okay. Next is barriers. So, what are the barrier methods used for contraception? Yes, you are correct. It is condom or cervical cap. These are the barrier methods. Next is sterilization. So, sterilization methods are tubectomy in females and vasectomy in males. Okay. So sterilization provides permanent contraception, right? Next question is, so the answer to this question is answer 1. Moving on to the next question, which one of the following is most widely accepted method of contraception in India at present? Okay. So the most widely accepted method of contraception in India is IUDs, the intrauterine devices. So at present, the most widely accepted method of contraception in India are the intrauterine devices. Okay. And there are the different types of IUDs whose examples are given, such as Lippes loop, then copper releasing like copper T, then hormone releasing intrauterine devices like progestasert, LNG20, etc. Now moving on to the next question, that is the question number 186. It states that which one of the following is the excretory structure in phylum Annelida? Okay, so in Annelida, you know who belong? The segmented worms are there, yes. And these segmented worms have what structure as their excretory organ? Yes, it is the nephridia. So nephridia acts as the excretory structure in phylum Annelida. Moving on to the next question. How much part of the neural tissue is formed by neuroglia? Now see, this is a confusing question. You might be thinking that the nervous system should be mainly formed by nerves, but it is more than 50% formed by the neuroglia. And neuroglia are what? They are supporting cells. Okay, so this is an interesting question. The answer is more than 50%. Next question is, which is not a true statement? So we have to identify the incorrect ones among this. So first statement is the PCO2 of the deoxygenated blood is 40 mmHg. Now is this correct? No, this is incorrect. Why? Because the PCO2 of deoxygenated blood is how much? It is 45 mm of Hg. Okay. Next is PCO2 of alveolar air is 40 mmHg. So this is a correct statement. Next question is, the next statement is PO2 of alveolar air is 104 mmHg. So this is also a correct value. Next statement is PO2. Okay, this is the PO2 of deoxygenated blood is 95 mm of Hg. So this is also an incorrect statement. Why? Because the PO2 of deoxygenated blood is how much? It is 40 mm Hg. Okay, so as it is given here in the deoxygenated blood, PO2 is 40 mm Hg and PCO2 is 45 mm Hg. Do remember these values, right? Then so the correct option here is option 4. The next question is, what would be the heart rate of a person if the cardiac output is 5 liter and the blood volume in the ventricles at the end of diastole is 100 ml and at the end of ventricular systole is 50 ml. Okay, now see, here we need to find the heart rate of the person whose cardiac output is given, volume at the end of diastole and the end of systole is given, right? Now what is the formula for heart rate? So the formula for heart rate is equal to cardiac output upon the stroke volume. Okay, now see, cardiac output is the total output in 1 minute and stroke volume is the total output in 1 beat, right? Now if we divide the total output per minute by total output in 1 beat, then we will get how many times the heart is beating in 1 minute, right? So how to find the stroke volume? The formula for stroke volume is equal to the end diastolic volume minus the end systolic volume, right? So what is the end diastolic volume given over here? It is 100 ml and the end systolic volume given over here is 50 ml. So the stroke volume here will be equal to 50 ml, right? Now putting the value of stroke volume in this formula, we get heart rate as cardiac output is given as 5 liter. So 5000 ml upon 50 ml, right? So the answer we get over here is how much? It is 100 beats per minute. Okay, so the correct option is option 3. So I hope you understood this numerical question in biology, right? Moving on to the next question. This is again an assertion reason question. It is question number 190. The assertion here is renin converts angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1 and further to angiotensin 2, which increases GFR. The reason is angiotensin 2 increases the glomerular blood pressure and it also activates the adrenal cortex to release aldosterone and therefore increase GFR. Okay, now see, what does assertion state here? That the renin is a hormone. Yes, it converts the angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1. Okay, this is the part of RAS system or the renin angiotensin aldosterone system, right? And this angiotensin 1 is converted to angiotensin 2. Okay, now how does this angiotensin 2 act? So this is only explained in the reason that the angiotensin 2, what does it do? It constricts the glomerular blood vessels. Now what will happen if the glomerular blood vessel will constrict? It will increase the glomerular blood pressure. Now if the glomerular blood pressure will increase, what will happen? The glomerular filtration rate will increase. Okay, and also another function of angiotensin 2 is that it activates the adrenal cortex. So adrenal cortex, what does it do? It releases aldosterone, and aldosterone also increases the glomerular filtration rate. So it is very clear here that assertion is also true, reason is also true, and also the reason is correctly explaining the assertion. So the correct answer over here is option 4. The next question is question 191, that is, the central part of the thick filament which is not overlapped by the thin filaments is called as. Okay, so it is not overlapped, it is not overlapped by the thin filaments, and this zone is called as the H zone. Okay, the next question is again a match the column question. Okay, here there are some glands given. Okay, these are the parts of pituitary gland only, and the hormones which are released by these parts. Okay, so the first is anterior pituitary. Now we know that anterior pituitary releases these hormones, that is thyroid stimulating hormone and follicular stimulating hormone, FSH, TSH and FSH. So A goes with 2. Now you might be thinking that this is anterior pituitary and here pars distalis is given. So pars distalis also releases ACTH. Okay, so D goes with 1. Next is the pars intermedia. Pars intermedia is responsible for release of only one hormone, that is the melanocyte stimulating hormone or MSH. And what two hormones are released by neurohypophysis or the posterior pituitary? These are oxytocin and vasopressin. So here the correct answer is option number 2. The next question is, select the correct statement. So there are few statements given over here and you need to find out which is correct one. First is glucocorticoids stimulate gluconeogenesis. So this is the correct statement. Why? Because glucocorticoids, the function of glucocorticoids is they stimulate gluconeogenesis, lipolysis and proteolysis. Okay, so this is the correct statement. Glucocorticoids stimulate gluconeogenesis. Now let us see why these three statements are incorrect. First is glucagon is associated with hypoglycemia, insulin is associated with hyperglycemia. So these two statements are absolutely incorrect. Why? Because see, when there is hyperglycemia, insulin is released, and the function of insulin is to decrease the blood glucose level. Correct? And when the blood glucose level is decreased, then glucagon is released. And what does glucagon do? It increases the blood glucose level. So these two statements are opposites of each other. Next is insulin acts on the pancreatic cells and the adipocytes. So this statement is also incorrect. Moving on to the next question. Below are the given two statements. Androgens are produced by Sertoli cells, and the second statement is spermatozoa get nutrition from the Sertoli cells. Okay, so is statement 1 correct? See, androgens are produced by the Leydig cells. See, both Sertoli cells are present inside the seminiferous tubules, and the Leydig cells are also present inside the seminiferous tubules. But these Leydig cells secrete the androgens and not Sertoli cells. The Sertoli cells function is to provide nutrition to the spermatozoa. So this statement is incorrect, and this statement is correct, that Sertoli cells provide nutrition to the spermatozoa. So the answer here is statement 1 is false, but statement 2 is true. The next question is, it is also a match the following. There are a few causative organisms of some diseases given, and you have to identify which disease is caused by them. Okay, first is Wuchereria bancrofti. Now what disease does Wuchereria bancrofti cause? Yes, it is elephantiasis. Okay, the next is Plasmodium falciparum. Now this you all might be knowing. Plasmodium falciparum is responsible for causing malignant malaria. So A goes with 4 and B goes with 1. Next is Entamoeba histolytica. It is the causative organism of intestinal amoebiasis. Haemophilus influenzae causes pneumonia. right? So C goes with 3 and D goes with 2. So the correct answer over here is option 1. Now there is another question about downstream processing, that is, what does downstream process include? So the correct answer over here is separation and purification. Okay, see, in the downstream processing we obtain the desired product. For the desired product we require first of all its separation, and then we need to obtain the pure product, so it also requires purification. Okay, the next question is an assertion reason question. That is, the assertion here states that ELISA is widely used for detection of infectious diseases like AIDS, and the reason is given that ELISA is very sensitive and selective test and needs very small amount of reagents. Now see, the assertion and reason are both correct, but see, assertion is given that ELISA is widely used for detection of various infectious diseases like AIDS. That is absolutely correct, but why is ELISA used is not properly explained in the reason over here, because ELISA is a sensitive and selective test, but the reason here given is it needs very small amount of reagents, so that is not the correct reason for this. Okay, so it is not the correct explanation for this assertion. Okay, so the answer over here is option 2. Next question is question number 198. Transposons can be used during which of the following? Now see, the use of transposon, there is no use of transposon in polymerase chain reaction. What are transposons? Transposons are the jumping genes or the mobile genetic elements. These are specifically used in the RNAi technology or the RNA interference technology, which is used in gene silencing. Okay, see, so the gene silencing is the correct answer. Why? Because the transposons are used as a source of complementary RNA for the RNA interference technology. Okay. Autoradiography is incorrect because autoradiography usually follows hybridization, and PCR it does not require transposons. The question number 199 is again an assertion reason question that states surface of cerebellum is highly folded. You know, the cerebellum is the tree like structure found in the bottom of the brain, right? So cerebellum is highly folded. The reason given over here is to increase the area for having more neurons. So yes, this assertion and reason are both correct. The cerebellum is highly folded structure, and also the reason is to increase the area for having more neurons, so that more and more neurons can be accumulated inside that cerebellum. So the correct answer over here is assertion and reason are the correct, and reason is the correct explanation of all the assertion. Next, the last question is, with regards to the events during the Big Bang theory, which of the following statements is false? So you need to identify the incorrect statement. So which of the following is false? First statement is, the UV rays from the sun broke up water into hydrogen and oxygen, and the lighter hydrogen escaped. Right? So see, UV rays were responsible to break the H2O or water into hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen being lighter, it escaped. Next is O2, so this is a correct statement. Next is O2 combined with ammonia and methane to form water, and CO2 and others in the ozone layer was formed, right? So this is also a correct statement. The third statement is, as the water vapor cooled, the water vapor fell as rain to fill all the depressions and form oceans. So there were already depressions present on the earth, right? And as the temperature of the earth decreased overall, the water vapor present in the atmosphere, it cooled down, and this cooling down led to the formation of rain, and this rain filled the depressions and that formed the oceans. So this is also a correct statement. The last statement over here is, life appeared 500 billion years after formation of earth, almost 4 billion years back. So here this is incorrect. Why? Because the life appeared 500 million years after the formation of earth. So here instead of billion it should be million. Okay, right. So this statement is incorrect, and the answer to this question is option 4. So here we have concluded that full test 4. We have discussed all the questions. If you have any doubts regarding any question or any answer, you can surely post in the comment section below. Till then, keep hustling and all the best for the future test and all the very best for the NEET examination.